Hey everyone, it is Shakes. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and today I'll be going over if Valorant will run on your PC. Now Valorant, the new game that is taking over Twitch and YouTube that pretty much everyone is talking about, has its official closed beta coming out in a few days, April 7th. Well, by the time this video is up, it's probably gonna already be past that date, but the point is that not everyone has a fantastic PC, but everybody wants to play Valorant. Well, safe to say, after looking at a couple of sources for references on this issue, that it will most likely run great on your PC. Let me explain. So Riot, the guys in charge of developing Valorant, are famous for releasing League of Legends, one of the largest games in the world, and one thing League is known for is that it's well optimized. I mean, it makes sense that if you optimize a game so that it can run better for more people are gonna play it, so it seems a good business decision, so why not do it again for Valorant? If you have a poo-poo or professional grade computer, League is sure to run just fine, and because of that, we can be sure that they understand the value of making sure the game is playable for everyone so that Valorant will run just as smoothly. On top of that, if you've seen any kind of gameplay from the game, you can see that they aren't exactly going for the typical 2020 approach. Unlike Overwatch, which on release had their art directors call for as many lens flares and bright models as physically possible, Valorant went for a little bit of a more cleaner and competitive approach. Not only does this direction make the game seem more competitively viable because there are less things to distract you from seeing the enemy, but with how the game is styled, there won't be that many hard-hitting effects and models to make your game chug through rendering them. In fact, I really like the style they went with. It has a very Team Fortress 2 cartoon style to it, which, if the past is any indication, could mean that this game survives long years without having to start to feel outdated graphically. Now from Jericho, his link will be in the description, not that he needs it from me. He says the game seems very well optimized on his PC, but more importantly compares it to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now take this with a grain of salt, as it was kind of just a throwaway line explaining his experience with his good performance in Valorant, but he said that he suspects it will run just as good, if not better than CSGO, from what he has played, which is fantastic if true. CS is known for being super well optimized. I mean, the majority of people playing it are getting hundreds of frames per second, so if his statement holds up, which personally I think will because of everything I've talked about before, then Valorant will be sure to run fantastic on even the most toaster resembling hardware. Again, this is from the beta period, so more optimizations often come later in the phases, so it could potentially get even better. Anyway though, they recently stated the minimum specs for a few different FPS points, namely 30 FPS, 60 FPS, and 144 FPS, and I thought I might as well run through them to see what bracket you might fit in. For 30 FPS, they recommend an i3 370M CPU and an Intel HD 3000 GPU, so if you're looking for 30 FPS, you probably just need a laptop that came out in the last half decade. For 60 FPS, they recommend an Intel i3 4150 CPU and a GeForce GT 730 GPU. Now this is a slight bit more requiring, but if you have played any games that came out in the past 5 years and your computer has not spontaneously combusted, then you most definitely can beat this bracket. For 144 FPS, they recommend an Intel i5 4460 running at 3.2 GHz and a GTX 1050 Ti GPU. Now this is the most demanding of the bunch, but for 144 FPS, that is honestly very impressive. The GTX 1050 Ti was a budget card that came out 4 years ago, and if that allows it to run at 144 FPS, then you know that they cared to optimize this game very well. If you don't have a GPU like this, never fear, I looked around and you can find a brand new RX 570 for around 120 USD, which is 111 euros, which performs even better than a 1050 Ti, so you can bet you can break that 200 FPS barrier. As for your CPU, it's a little hard to recommend as not everyone's motherboard will have the same CPU socket, but just find your current CPU, look for its socket number, and look around for ones that fit the socket and are comparable to an i5 4460. But way more importantly than that, don't think about doing any of this until you get your hands on Valorant, because you never know, maybe it runs perfectly fine on your computer after doing a few graphical downgrades in the settings, or they just release a new optimization patch later on. Just remember to benchmark the game first on your PC before deciding it's time to make some changes to the old chum bucket. Anyway though, that is if Valorant will run on your PC. I have very high hopes for this. I have high hopes for the optimization, the 128 tick. There's just a million different things to be hyped about for this game. I hope they don't screw it up, but I don't think they will. Riot isn't really known for doing that. But anyway though, thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been Shanks. Stay safe lads, and like and comment and subscribe, but only if you want to. See you in the next one. Peace.